amigos. Coming up in this episode we have... Now, after only 19 days off the bike, I realise I've lost a few of my instincts. They only charged me $2 for the campsite at San Manuel. Its previous name was Colonia Dignidad, and it does have a very dark history. So I'm in Valparaiso, on the Pacific coast of Chile, where I'm about to leave the friendly folks at Villa Kunterbunt, a biker hostel. Looking on the map, it seemed the best route out of here was with a road called Camino la Pólvora, or that means in English, Gunpowder Road, which went over a ridge to the south of Villa Kunterbunt. But Enzo cautioned me not to go that way. He said it was peligroso, which means dangerous. So I took his advice and planned to take this route, which was actually shorter. But in the end, I missed the turnoff and ended up taking this other route. My destination is... well, actually, I have no firm destination in mind today. I just want to hit the road and get as far south as I can because time's running out. What's that crazy guy there waving at me for? You see that statue there on the right? That's Arturo Prat. Spoke about him in the last episode. The Chilean naval hero who led a do-or-die boarding raid against the Peruvians and paid for it with a bullet in the head. It looks like this plaza's pavers need repairing or replacing right now. It's early Easter Sunday morning, but there's plenty of people about. That's an interesting building on the left there. Looks like it's made of shipping containers. No, it's not. It's just a regular building. Now I'm confused. I'm on the west coast of Chile, but the sun seems to be rising over the water to the west. It must be because of the curvature of this southern part of the bay. So I'm actually travelling south now, but I guess the half-moon-shaped bay will swing me to the north soon. Now, after only 19 days off the bike, I realise I've lost a few of my instincts, directional instincts. And that's one of the reasons I chose Sunday morning to ride out. Less traffic, less problem if I get lost, less chance of getting run over by a truck or bus or stuck in a traffic jam. Lovely palm trees here. For a guy like me who grew up on the east coast of Australia where the sun rises over the ocean to the east, it's a little bit confusing. Not too bad, but a little bit. We drive on the other side of the road and I'm trying to navigate with this little Garmin thing. It's not made for motorbike navigation. It's made for handheld trekking, and the screen is only about 1.5 inches tall. I'm trying to read the streets off that and work out which way to turn, left or right. But I'll get there. And you know, it's amazing how much you get your bearings, I guess, from when we were cavemen or something, hunter-gatherers from the sun. It's there. Modern people have forgotten about it, but I'm sure it's still there in the back of our consciousness somewhere. You know, I'm glad to be back on the road. 19 days in Villa Kunterbunt, it was great. I solved a lot of problems while I was there, and I would have stayed a few days longer. It was such a nice, friendly, convenient place. But I'm preoccupied about the snow and ice down in Ushuaia. It's already the second week of April, and I have over 3,500 kilometres or 2,000 miles to go, and there's going to be breakdowns and delays. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. But you know, snow and ice, Patagonia, that's a long way from my mind right now. Look at the sun, look at those palm trees. With that big blue sky, the bright sun, the west coast and those palm trees, this could be Los Angeles. But no, I'm heading south to where it's really cold. Now it looks right. Now it looks like the sun's rising in the east over the Andes. Nice modern building on the left there. I saw these from coming the other way when the sun was setting when I rode into Valparaiso a few weeks ago. Paris? I don't want Paris, I want Ushuaia. Better check my GPS. I think I better go this way. The road's opening up a bit. The open road. It's so great to be on the open road. And where I'm heading, I've never been to that part of Chile before. It feels like my journey's really beginning now. A feeling of no restrictions. It's a feeling you dream about, but I didn't really know what it was like until I bought the bike. And now I'm on the bike. It's great. It's freedom. It's just do what you want, when you want, how you want. As long as you can pay for it, of course. It's not that cheap. But yeah, it's just tangible, the joy of being on the open road. I guess one reason I'm feeling so happy is 3 big weights were taken off my shoulders in Valparaiso. I got the spokes fixed. I was worried that they were going to disintegrate on the road and kill me. And my dad seems to be on the road to recovery after his major surgery. And I got my credit card back, and I don't feel so impecunious. Got my financial independence, as well as my 2 wheels. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday, and there's hardly any traffic. The bike seems to be running well. No obstacles ahead that I can think of. Yeah, it's looking good. You see that sign there? It translates as cyber independence. That's actually quite interesting if you know anything about the history of the internet and how it was stillborn in Allende's socialist government. Because between 1971 and 1973, Chile built a rudimentary form of the internet from scratch, using 500 telex machines under the direction of a British visionary named Stafford Beer. Great progress was made in integrating factory supply chain movements, necessary at that time, as many industries had been nationalised and the country was crippled by strikes and international sanctions. Ironically, its finest hour was when it was used to circumvent a strike by truck drivers who were trying to bring down the government. You see this futuristic-looking control centre? Looks like something out of Star Trek, but you remember it's 1971. Because the project was successful, they decided to build the nerve centre, the control centre, in the Palacio de la Moneda, the presidential headquarters, and a room was set aside and measured up on the 10th of September 1973, but on the 11th of September 1973, Pinochet staged his coup, the Chilean military bombed and stormed the building, and Presidente Allende committed suicide. And that, unfortunately, was the end of that prescient project known as Project Cybersyn. Oh, that sun is blinding, but it should rise out of view pretty soon. These houses, they would have lovely views of the sunset over the South Pacific every afternoon. Out on the open road now, but still quite away from the Panamericana. What's this? This billboard promotes a brand of rum made by master rum makers from Cuba. I want to camp tonight if possible. That looks like it would provide some shelter. But it's on private property and it's still early in the day, so I've got to keep going. This is how they sun-dry corn here. I turned around to go back to take this photo, and as I was taking the photo, 2 local guys rode up on motorbikes and invited me to ride into town with them to see a local museum. I was going the other way and I was in a hurry, so I just said, Lo siento, tengo prisa. I said, I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of a hurry. They gave me a thumbs up gesture and rode off yelling suerte, which means good luck. I didn't see their faces because none of us took our helmets off, but, you know, that was nice. And it's yellow sweet corn. I never saw yellow corn in all my years in Cusco. They grow another kind called giant white Cusco maize, which grows in the Sacred Valley. I'm making pretty good progress today. Time to refuel both my bike and me with some chocolate and coffee. This lady was so friendly. She asked where I was from. Now I'm back on the Panamericana, or as they call it in Chile, the Ruta 5 Sur, Route 5 South. There's a lot of toll stations, or peajes as they call them in Spanish. And look at the traffic. Lots of money in the government coffers, all heading back to Santiago because it's Easter Sunday. But I have to admit the main roads here in Chile are very well maintained. As I recounted in episode 22, they have an SOS telephone every few miles, and if you keep your toll station receipt, you're entitled to a free tow to the nearest garage. Next I came to a small river called the Rio Maule. First I rode over the river and parked on the southern side. My bike fell over and broke one of the rear vision mirrors. The Rio Maule played a huge role in the pre-Columbian history of this part of South America, because it was here that the Incas did battle with the Mapuche, who were sick of paying tribute in gold and whatever else that the Incas kept demanding, and become subjects of the Inca whose seat of power was in Cusco. One reason the Mapuche halted the Inca expansion was they had their backs to the wall. It was their homeland, whereas the Incas were stretched a very long way, thousands of miles from their homeland. The chronicles say they had a pitched battle with around 20,000 warriors on either side. They negotiated for 2 days and then fought for 3 days, and after the end of the 3 days, with more than half the men killed on either side, they were in a stalemate and forced into a truce. So they drew a line. The boundary between the Inca Empire and the Mapuches further south was this river. It was getting late in the afternoon and I saw this sign, Villa Baviera. It says, un lugar diferente, a different place. It had like cabalgatas, which is horse riding, lodgings, trekking. Maybe I should head there, 17 kilometres from the turnoff. But what I didn't know at the time, it actually has a dark history. So I turned left off the Pan American and started heading towards the mountains. It was getting really cold, the shadows were getting long, and the forest was very thick. It really did feel like I was in Germany. I saw a man walking beside the road and asked for directions. He asked me if I was German. The man said there were some campgrounds a few kilometres down the road, just follow the signs, he said. But the road soon became dirt, which slowed me down pretty much. But after what seemed like an eternity and taking several highly speculative forks in the road, just going through thick forest, I came to a sign that said, Camping San Manuel, 1 kilometre. At a farmhouse a bit further along, I paid around $2 and was directed towards the campground, situated beside a river. There was a pink building here that still had the electricity connected. It had a hot shower, a toilet block, lots of space. It even had a football field. And I had the whole place to myself. It was totally deserted. In fading light, I managed to erect the tent right beside the river. Today I'd left early and hadn't stopped much, and I covered over 500 kilometres, which is a record for me and the bike. I'd also been on the bike for almost 11 hours. So I had no qualms going to bed at sunset. Before long, it was pitch black. I actually woke up just before dawn and decided to charge up my action cam and my little Rico with the 12-volt system I set up on the bike. Then I remembered there was a power point in the building and the power was still connected, so I hooked up my laptop and did some crunching for World Community Grid Against Cancer. Note the mist rising off that murky green river. This river's name is the Perquilauquen. Almost sounds like percolating, doesn't it? But it's Mapuche for purgative. So I don't think it's a good idea to drink from that river. And it actually turns north and ends up flowing into the Rio Maule, which was the site of that huge battle between the Incas and the Mapuche. You've heard of go to bed with the chickens and get up with the cows. Well, I got up with the cows. Now, I didn't know at the time, but later on when I plotted the GPS of where I camped that night, I was only about 8 kilometres, that's less than 5 miles downstream from Villa Kunterbunt. Now, if you put that name into Google, you'll find its previous name was Colonia Dignidad, and it does have a very dark history. And I don't want to dwell on it too much because for those people, it's all in the past, and the people that are there now are not responsible for what happened before. There's a Netflix story out about it, but just to summarise it quickly, it was run by a German priest who was in trouble in Germany, started a colony there in Chile. Some of the things that were alleged to have happened were child abuse, a haven for Nazis. Pinochet used it as a concentration camp and a torture centre, and several people were murdered there because they did unearth some bodies sometime after I was there. One of the strangest stories to emerge from Colonia Dignidad was that of Boris Weisfeiler. He was a mathematics professor from Pennsylvania State University, and in his summer holidays he came down to Chile, was hiking around Colonia Dignidad somewhere, was last seen asking for hot water at a house on the border of the colony. They found his backpack beside a river, and the official cause of death was he drowned in the river, and they never found his body. But there were strong suspicions that Pinochet's secret police were somehow involved. And there was a kind of a show trial where 8 former police officers were questioned, but nobody ever went to jail. But then remember WikiLeaks? A cable emerged from that alleging that there was proof that Pinochet's secret police operating out of Colonia Dignidad had questioned him, tortured him, shot him in the head and made him disappear. Anyhow, it was quite lonely there, so I was quite happy to pack up and head back to the main Panamericana and keep heading south. You can see my little tiny camera tripod fall off the bike here. That's how I lost that. That's all for this episode, amigos. But coming up in the next episode, we have... They just stared at me. Oh, I can see it now. An almost perfectly shaped volcanic cone. So this is Freire's Leaning Tower. The exterior and the interior of this building was used in the film The Motorcycle Diaries.